Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Motion.io product update live stream. My name is Sam Chlebowski. I am one of the co-founders here at Motion.io and really excited to be joining you live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We are live across all of those platforms now. Really excited to have you tuning in and joining us today. If everybody could write in, tell me, where you're tuning in from. What's the weather like there today? I love to get people kind of testing out the commenting, just so you know that as we go throughout the topics and the content in this webinar, that you are able to write in, ask your questions, and I will respond to them all in real time. So we've got some really cool stuff to cover today, but also happy to cover anything else that comes up or anything else you've had questions about with using Motion.io and the Motion.io platform. I am here to be, your guide to show you whatever you might need to know here for the next hour. So, and I see we have Maria Roseo joining in from Houston, Texas. It's hot. I can only imagine it is hot down in Texas. Maria, my brother lives down in Austin, and I visited him one year in November, and I was shocked how hot it still was in November. It was like 97 degrees and like crazy humidity. Wasn't used to it. I'm used to the heat because it gets like in the hundreds here where I live in Denver quite often, but the humidity I am not accustomed to. So hope you're staying cool down there in Texas. Also see we have Marquisa joining us. Hello, Marquisa. Great to have you with us. And yeah, going to be really excited to chat today, go through everything you want to know about Motion.io and then more. So if you all, if this is maybe your first time joining one of these live streams, typically I just do one of these like once a month. They're almost always at the very beginning of the month. And I kind of summarize everything we've released over the course of the last couple of weeks. This live stream we're doing, you'll notice, is in the middle of the month. And that's because we released a couple of really cool things just in the last week or so. And I wanted to do this kind of special session to update you, show you all what's new. Also, see, we have a couple of other people joining in. And sorry, Marquisa, that I pronounced your name wrong. I do apologize for that. Mark Hill. So I see we have Jenny from Brighton in the UK. The weather is lovely. Love to hear it, Jenny. My mother actually spends quite a bit of time in the UK. She is a nature school teacher, and then she does like a lot of consulting work. And the UK, for whatever reason, is like a hotbed of like what she does. And so she goes to the UK, I think like almost like every quarter or so, like every 3 months she's back there doing something. So she loves it out there. I also see we have Eugene joining us down from Atlanta. Hot and humid. Yeah, I can only imagine, Eugene. It seems like we've had a kind of a heat wave lately. I don't know about y'all, but it was, it was 89 here in Denver this past weekend, which is hot for this time of year. So, and we see, I believe we have Tim also joining us from the UK. Look at all these UK folks that we have showing up today. I love that. I know it's, I believe, pretty late there, I think, because y'all are, I think, 6 or 7 hours ahead of us. So appreciate you making the time and coming on to join in. Oh, and be sure to shout out NYC. Yes, don't worry, Marquesa. We love New York City. My one of my other co-founders, Perry, he is actually from New York City originally. He was just there actually with his entire family. They live here in sort of the Front Range area now, but he's originally from NYC, and they go back a couple times a year. So that's cool. 30 years in New York City. Wow. So thank you, everybody. I'd love to see people writing in. Keep up that pace, keep up that velocity as we go through this content. I want to know, what questions do you have about Motion.io? What can I help answer? Oh, and 5:35 in the UK should be clocking off. Well, Jenny, I do appreciate you making the time for us and joining in on your Friday. So hopefully after this, you log off, go out to dinner, hang out with your family, whatever you like to do after work. But yeah, that's really cool that you're joining in. So the first thing that I want to talk about within Motion.io and kind of what's new within our platform that you may have saw in this release is new roles and permissions that we've launched. And so the roles and permissions feature, just to explain like a little bit of the behind the scenes information of like why we added this, why it was so important, because you might be sitting there watching this and saying, roles and permissions, like what's the big deal? So I will tell you. So basically, for the last year and a half or so, there's only been 2 different roles that you can assign to people in Motion.io. There was an admin role, which could do things like billing, manage the team branding settings. And then there was a team member role that could do everything else, basically, besides billing or update branding in a account. Now, what you'll see when you log into Motion.io, and I'll just share my screen here. But what you will see is that you now, if you go into your team tab here, you will have, when you go to add a team member the next time, and I'll just call this example team member, you'll now see that you have not just a admin and team member role, but there's actually 4 roles that you can assign to any team members you invite to your account. And this also applies to people you've invited previously. So for example, Perry here is added to my account. Let's say I wanted to change him from an administrator, and I just want him to have pretty limited access. So I can switch him to the contractor role. So I can choose one of these 4 roles, either retroactively or whenever I add a new person to my account. To quickly jump in and just explain like what are the differences between these roles, I'm going to read from you just a help desk article that I wrote to kind of support this feature, but I will also go ahead and link this in the chat for you, so you can check this out on your own, because we have updated this to reflect sort of our newest permissions here. And Lauren, thanks for joining us down from Jacksonville, Florida. Another Jacksonville connection. My co-founder's mother-in-law is actually from Jacksonville. So thanks for tuning in. So I pasted a link to our help desk article, which covers these new roles and permissions, but to just very quickly describe like what they do and what the differences are between them. So administrator, the administrator role it has the highest level of access within your team. And in addition to managing all team member assets, including contracts, projects, and client portals, administrators have additional permissions to adjust account level settings on the settings page, so right here, as well as manage their account billing through the billing page. What you want to think about if you are adding people who are administrators in your account is these should be people who oversee the most within the company. So typically that's going to be C-level, that's going to be founders, that's going to be basically anybody who is in charge of making these big operational changes, and they'll need access to billing or branding within your account. You want to set them to the administrator role. A note about this role is if you go and you sign up for an account and a trial account, the first person who creates that trial account is automatically set as the administrator role. So next down on the list of our new roles is the manager role. And managers have broad permissions to help client work run smoothly across multiple projects. They can create new projects, they can invite clients, and manage all aspects of existing projects, including tasks, portal edits, messages, and contracts. Something to note is that if you need your team members to be able to access contracts, that includes, not only creating, but also viewing, you'll make sure you want to set them to either the administrator role or the manager role, because the employee and contractor roles, they cannot see contracts. And we did that very intentionally when we were designing these roles in Motion.io. What we had heard before, even to just take a little step back, before any time we add a feature, we ask people like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Like, how do you think that we should structure this? And if we don't have enough information on what people want, we'll typically hold off on releasing a new feature. And so what we did is we asked our users and just, kind of quizzed a couple of them on calls of like, hey, who should be able to access contracts? Because what we had heard is sometimes contracts contain pretty confidential information, stuff that you might not want other employees having access to. So, for example, you don't want them seeing the total value of a vendor that you're working with or how much XYZ specific client is paying you. So we restrict access to contracts to both the admin and manager role. And anybody else, even if they are invited to the project, will not be able to see any of those contracts. A similar thing applies to both forms. So any of the forms here, as well as your templates. For forms, templates, and contracts, once again, just to kind of reiterate it, only administrators and only managers can access those things. Employees, on the other hand, and we'll talk about them next, employees is really the role that you want to assign any sort of frontline team collaborator, anybody that's going to be engaging with clients on a project, because they'll be able to complete tasks, edit tasks, and communicate directly. But like I mentioned, folks that you assign the employee role to, they're not going to be able to view or edit contracts, edit templates, or edit forms within any of your projects. And then finally, this final role that we've added is a contractor role. The contractor role is going to be a view-only role. And these are people that maybe you're working with externally. You don't want them to be able to edit things within the client or edit things within the project or communicate with clients directly. But it's important that they need access to things to see what's happening because maybe there is dependent work that you are having them do. So, for example, a type of person that you would want to assign a contractor role to is, let's say you are a web design agency and you have a content writer that you contract with. They're not, a full-time member of your team, but it's important for that contractor to know, hey, once these onboarding tasks are completed, it's time for me to go in and write some of the content for this client's website. That's a good example of somebody who you might want to assign the contractor role to. So with that, those are the 4 roles in Motion.io. What questions do you have about that? Have you seen these after these roles were released? Did you kind of restructure your team at all? Please let me know any questions that you have about this specific new feature, and I would be more than happy to kind of walk through anything else you might want to know live here today. With that, I'll take a brief pause for questions while I introduce the next feature. This one's a little bit more straightforward, doesn't require as much of an in-depth sort of walkthrough, but it's really cool and something that was highly requested by our users. So the next feature I want to talk about is the ability to now add custom portal header images to your Motion.io client portals. This is something after redesigning our client portals, and just in case you missed it, about a month ago, we did a sort of a full refresh redesign of the client portal experience in Motion.io. And as a part of it, what we added to Motion.io, and I'll just kind of show you what this looks like. And I do see we have a question that came in from Marquisa. My priority are help desk tickets. Marquisa, let me know what you would like to know about that. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you have. Until you send that question, I'll hop back in here to explain our custom portal header images and this new update that we have. So I'm going to go here back into my Motion.io account. One second here. And I'm just going to go ahead and hop in, and I'm going to delete the image that I set up. And so what you'll see when we did this redesign of the client portal experience in motion.io, the layout changed a little bit. So when you go to a portal, what you'll see, and I'll just open up a client's portal here. And this is what this looked like previously by default, where basically we would take your brand color and this header image up at the top here. This would just be applied based on the settings that you had configured and the color that you had set on your account's setting page. And we had a lot of people asking us, hey, this is great and all that this pulls my brand color in, but I would really like to be able to set this as a custom image that's a little bit more customized to my brand, or if I wanted to, have this be a different color or show something else, could I do that? And we said, hey, absolutely. Give us, a week or two, and then we were able to do this. So what you can do now here in motion.io, and let me just share the correct tab here really quick. Cool. So we're back in here. If you now come to your account's settings page and then go in here and click the portals tab, you will notice that you now have the ability to upload your own image that will populate across all of your client portals. So just to quickly show you how to do this, I'm going to click change header image. And I'm going to grab this custom banner that I created just before this live stream started. And I'm going to go ahead and click upload. And I'm going to save those changes. Now, what you will see is when I come back to that client portal preview I was showing you earlier, sweet, this custom image that I uploaded has now replaced that default setting there. So just for a quick recap of how to do this, and this is going to populate across all of your client portals. But just a quick recap, what you'll do is you'll come to the settings page here, click change header image, and then the recommended dimensions for this are 1600 by 200 pixels. But it's really as easy as that. You can get a little bit more of a customized look and feel for your portals. Takes a couple seconds. You just upload that image and you're off to the races. Mariah asked, is the portal image meant to be client specific? So no, it is not. The portal image, the way that we've set this up for now is you add this once, and then what will happen is it's going to apply to all of your projects, all of your client portals within motion.io. That said, it is a good question, Mariah. We have had a couple of requests about being able to have this apply on a per project basis or a per client basis and change the portal header image accordingly. That's something we're looking into right now. Just for a little behind the scenes like view of how we develop at motion.io and kind of the way that we release new features is we knew that before we release this feature, we had heard people say, hey, I want to customize it on a per project basis. But what we wanted to do is, in order to move quickly, because that requires a substantially larger lift for us to make it sort of client project specific, we wanted to test this out, see how people were liking it. And, if we got a lot of requests coming in to customize it on a per project or per client basis, we'll absolutely do that. So I'll make sure to go ahead, Mariah, and log a feature request for that for you. We keep track of all of these every time somebody requests that. So we'll absolutely make sure we get that logged for you. And I see we have another request from Jenny. Jenny, thanks for letting us know about that. We are happy, I'm happy to leave a feature request for you as well. I like to track these things pretty meticulously. We do, every time somebody sends that in, one by one, we can go ahead and we'll log that for you. And I see, Marquesa, thanks for sending in your question. Due to normal human behavior, members send emails, chats, texts when they need something. I'd like to easily assign a help desk ticket that leads back to their Motion.io project. So that would that be basically you working in an external help desk software, or is that going to be within Motion.io? Let me know. One thing that I would clarify for you, Marquesa, is that currently with the way that Motion.io works, and I think this would be helpful for everybody in the audience here. One thing to note is that in the Motion.io message center now, anytime a client responds to a email sent by Motion.io, even if that happens with outside of their portal, we do log those emails in here. So for example, a client's Motion.io sends a client a reminder email about a task you need them to complete. If they respond in their Gmail inbox, that message is automatically going to be added to this message center area. And from there, how we've adjusted Motion.io is that you can very easily convert those messages you receive into tasks. So this actually might be exactly what you are looking for, Marquesa, is that you are able to basically take these communications. So let's say this was a response to an email. I can go up here and click convert to task. And I can turn this into either a client or a team assigned task very quickly. And it will get sent automatically to my associated project. So maybe that's something that would be helpful for you. I think that this is pretty in line with what you are wanting to do. But if you do want to send us an email at hello@motion.io, I'm happy to answer any questions about that further or clarify and help and assist any way we can. I see we have a couple other comments come in. Eugene Fuller, any suggestions on software or platforms to best design a new banner? Great question, Eugene. So what I actually like to use, and I can even show you this right now here. I'm still in my account. I really like to use Canva for designing these banners. And what I can actually do here is a thank you to you all for joining in here live today. I can actually make this a quick template in Canva, and I can share it with all of you. So you can use this and basically customize it if you would like. I'm just going to call this example welcome banner. And then you could replace this with your, here, I'm going to actually make a couple of changes here. I love Canva for stuff like this. It's Canva. I know how to use like the Adobe platform. So Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever, all that jazz. And that's what I started my career using. But now I find myself falling back on Canva for almost everything I do at Motion.io, because I'm also not a professional designer by any means, but as the one who leads up our marketing team as a small team here, I'm often the one who's designing basically everything you see on our website or that you receive in an email from us. So I can go ahead and quickly make this a template so any one of you in the audience can actually use this. So let me just go ahead and do this now quick for you. So I'm going to paste this in the chat here. And you can go ahead, and this is just a template link, so you can make a copy of this, change the color, swap out whatever you want, create this as your own, but at least it's set up for you with like the correct dimensions to hopefully give you a little bit of a head start there, Eugene, and anybody else in the audience who might want to use this. And yeah, from Marquesa, ChatGPT can also design a quick banner. Yes, 100%. I've been using ChatGPT to do a lot of design mock-ups lately. I have found that it is really great. I typically, what I'll do is I'll go into ChatGPT. I'll start creating something there. I'll say, hey, ChatGPT, what's the best way for me to design this? And then I'll kind of just quickly duplicate it in Canva. So yeah, some quick ways, some really good tools for you there to get things up and running very quickly. So the another feature that I want to talk about here today, and please, anyone in the audience, if you do have questions about what we've talked about already, Just as a reminder, send those in. I'm here. I'm hanging out. It's Friday. Send me anything that you want to know about Motion.io. Let me know how I can help. But one of the things, and kind of the last big thing that I want to talk about that was included in our latest release here at Motion.io is a new Zapier trigger. So what we have added to Motion.io in this past week, we've added a new Zapier trigger that you can use to trigger your automated workflows when a tag is applied to a project. And this is really cool. I'll show you a couple of examples of how you can use this in just a couple minutes. But I want to talk about why we added this in the first place. So this is, out of any feature in this one, a little bit of a more interesting one, because the reason why we added this trigger to Motion.io Zapier integration is that we actually wanted it internally for some stuff we were doing for our onboarding process, to make sure that we were following up with the right people, making sure anybody who signed up, became a customer with us, was getting the support they needed, and making sure we were staying on top of it. So we added, just this past week, this Zapier trigger. I'm going to hop in and show you what this looks like. So here I am back inside my own personal Zapier account. Let me move this window of myself out of the way. So what you will see now, if you go into Zapier, if you're a user of our Zapier integration, is you'll have this new trigger event available called Tag Added. And let me find just my correct account here. Yeah, wrong account. Sorry about that. Oh, here we go. I found it. But what this tag is, what this trigger is going to allow you to do is, like, when something happens within a project. Actually, let me just reconnect this. I don't know why it's not liking me today. Is basically when something happens inside of a project that's very project specific, you'll be able to use this Zapier workflow to have things happen in other apps. And one of the big ways that, like, we wanted to use this initially internally was for updating our CRM. So we use HubSpot as our CRM, and it was really important for us to be able to send data to it when specific things happened in a project and when we applied a tag. So we've added this for, ourselves more than anything initially, but I think it's really useful to anybody else who's utilizing Motion.io. So what you could do is, I'm going to pop back over here to my Motion.io account. I'm going to create a new tag, and I'm just going to go with a very simple example. And we'll call this tag follow, or looks like I actually already have it. Needs follow-up. Cool. So I'm going to quickly, just to show you what this looks like, apply this tag to a project. I have this Moxie Beverages project in my account that looks like it might be falling behind a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this tag. What I could do is, let's say that somebody else, outside of Motion.io, or outside of someone else who was, like, using Motion.io for their day-to-day workflows, needed to follow up with this person and follow up about this project. What I could do is I could use Motion.io's tag added step to add them to a list in HubSpot. That would be basically a list of every person that needed followed up with. Maybe they needed, like, a manual phone call, and you wanted to have, for example, a sales team member do that. I could go ahead and have this workflow fire whenever this tag was added. One thing to note about this is that the way that you'll want to be using this is by adding a filter and configuring it so it will only continue if the tag that was added contains, in this example, follow-up, just because as a note, this is going to fire for any single tag you apply. So you want to add a filter just to be a little bit more specific about, hey, only send this workflow, only do these things once this specific tag, this follow-up tag is applied. And Marquisa, I see that you sent something in about a dedicated email address that clients can email directly. So that wouldn't be helpful to necessarily the work that we're doing here at Motion.io, but that is something that we are keeping an eye on, and we are going to be working on. We've adjusted the scope a little bit of how that feature is going to look, but we are paying close attention to that ability to basically, hey, customer emails this specific email address, send that to Motion.io. We have a help desk that sort of gives us that functionality internally, but it is something that we've added to the roadmap, and we'll keep you updated when that does go live. So one thing to show you here. Oh, and sorry, I realized I was just on the wrong tab here. Sorry, I was jumping between a couple of things. But here's a really good example of convert help desk to a task, please. Oh, yes. Thank you, Jenny, for sending that in. So right now, one thing to clarify is that, you can convert client messages to tasks. And for example, if a client writes in on the chat of your Motion.io account, and since we're getting a couple of questions, I'm going to go back away from Zapier and into my specific project, or sorry, my specific Motion.io account. If a client messages you in the chat, you can turn any of those messages that they send you into a task already. And I would love to know, Jenny, as well as Marquesa, is this functionality where chat message gets sent in, you can turn that into a task. Is that a little bit different than what you need to be able to do? Basically, what is the limitation of, hey, if a chat message comes in, turn that into a task versus using like a formal help desk? I would love to know that difference there, and just, okay, so it is different. So one of the things that we will be doing, Jenny, and that we actually just discussed this last week, is we're going to give you the ability, and this is something we haven't started working on just yet, so please bear with me, but what you're going to be able to do in Motion.io, and I think you'll be really excited by this. So right now, if you're familiar with Motion.io forms, you'll know that the forms that you have here, the only way to send them to clients is to add them to tasks. What we're going to be doing with forms in Motion.io is, in a coming update, you are actually going to be able to, within your projects, add them to portal pages. So for example, I could add a new portal page and set this as form, and then embed a Motion.io form in here. What this will enable you to do is, first of all, it will allow clients to submit forms any single time, or as many times as they need to. So right now, the limitation with forms is that if you send it to a client, they can only submit it once. Once we enable this ability to embed forms into portal pages, clients are going to be able to submit them as many times as they want. And we are also going to give you the ability to set those forms up so that they automatically create tasks. One thing to clarify is that this is going to happen outside of the help desk, but it's going to give you, from what it sounds like, Jenny, as well as the others who are commenting about that, is going to give you that functionality. So it sounds like, Jenny, that solves the issue for you. I love to hear that. This was a solution that we just came up with, actually, because of some of your feedback that you had sent in recently, Jenny. So we do really thank you for that. But this is going to provide a really flexible way where you can have, hey, form submitted, that goes straight into a task, whether it's something that your team needs to do, whether it's something that a specific client needs to do. But I'd love to hear that this solves the issue for you. And sorry, I'm just reading your comment there, Marquesa, really quick. My goal is to provide an assigned ticket for tracking purposes. Yes. Okay. So it sounds like this would solve it for you as well, where basically, hey, if this form was submitted by one of my clients, that automatically creates a task. Does what I just covered in sort of this update we have planned, does that solve things for you, Marquesa? I would love to know if this solves it for you like it does Jenny. It sounds like you were both trying to accomplish very similar things there. And if we can solve this for both of you, I mean, hey, that's something that we'll prioritize this even further because, out of everybody's requesting that. But I would love to know from anybody else in the audience too, like, is this something that would be helpful to you? This ability to embed forms in a portal page, have those forms create tasks when they're submitted by the client. Let me know, let me know if that's something that you would use. And we'll keep track of that. And Jenny sent in another question. Interested to know where the task goes in terms of stages. That's a great question. That's something I don't think that we have figured out yet either. For the caveat, this feature, it's something we literally just discussed like last Friday. So while we move quick at Motion.io, there are a couple of things to be specced out there. And I think that that's something that we need to talk through. And let me ask you, Jenny, where would you expect those tasks to go? Or how would you like to be able to organize tasks? For example, like if you could set up a form when it was submitted, would it automatically be added to, did you specify maybe a stage name where that would go, where that task would go? For example, if a stage was called design, every time that form was submitted, it would either go to a stage named design, or it would create a new stage and it'd be added to that task, or it would create a new task added to a new stage called design if it didn't exist already. Or maybe it's just new. Okay, that's cool. I like that advice. Yeah. Maybe you could just make it new and then, easily swap it into a different stage. Marquesa sent another comment in. I believe help desk organizes tickets in one place. Tasks lead to a lot of places. So, no. So tasks lead to just a single project. Like if you create a task if you would be creating a task from a form, that would just go into the client's associated project. It wouldn't go to like all of the different projects. The way that we have scoped out, and like I said, very early stages still, but the way that we've scoped this out is it would find the client's project. So if a client enters their email, for example, Sam Chlebowski, Motion.io is going to look for a project associated with that email, Sam Chlebowski's project, add the task directly to there. So thank you, everybody, for all of those great questions. A lot of stuff that we're thinking about right now that we're covering here. And I really appreciate you writing in of like, hey, Sam, I know you just mentioned this new feature that maybe it's only a week old. You've just started discussing it, but being able to get those suggestions from you all. Marquesa wrote in another comment. Imagine 30 team members with different needs. I'd like to track all help desk tickets in one place. So I would suggest, and kind of the way that we're setting this up, and what this update will do for us is we in Motion.io. So our help desk functionality is going to remain a part of Motion.io. But what I think that, Marquesa, for your needs, if you are working with a team that has 30 team members and it's, for example, a software solution, that might be a better suited for a traditional help desk software versus doing it in Motion.io. the way that we're kind of designing new features for our help desk functionality, for our forms, is that basically it's sort of a task is submitted, it goes to a specific project, and we want it to all be project dependent. If things are happening outside of a project, I typically am going to suggest to use a more traditional help desk solution for that, just because I think it'll be better for you in the end. But let me know. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's just pieces of context I'm missing from what you're trying to do. Oh, I run a membership. I have 300 plus members. So, and do you have are you in your Motion.io account, are you creating a project for each of those members? If so, it sounds like this would keep being able to meet your needs. They each have a project. Yeah. So exactly. I think that this would work for you then. This ability to basically have a form in those projects, client submits those form, it goes into the correct spot. It goes into a task that you can see, you can manage. So yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, it's great that it sounds like that would be a solution for you. So to quickly pop back over, I want to just show you all this app that I started to set up earlier. Realized I wasn't sharing the right screen. Sorry about that. And what you'll see here is that if you are in Motion.io Zapier integration, we have this new tag added trigger event that you can use. And then I've set up a quick filter. So the subsequent steps in this workflow are only going to continue if project tag's name contains follow-up. And then what it's going to do is going to add a contact to my HubSpot list so that my team can start following up. So this is just one example of a way that you could use this functionality. But basically, you can do this for any kind of updates that you want to send to another CRM, any type of workflow that you want to kick off. One way that I know that I've seen our users have wanted to use this is that even, outside of a CRM, maybe they want to connect to something like, an external project management software. So let's say I've been using ClickUp for, specific aspects of projects internally. I could also use this for when a tag was added that contains, maybe I created a project tag that was update ClickUp. I could basically set this so tag was added, make sure it only fires on this update ClickUp tag, and then I could send that information or I could update a task, a field value, a project value in that external source. So this gives you kind of a more granular level of control to where you can say, hey, only if I apply this tag, do this other thing in another tool. One of the videos that I will be producing that will be up on our YouTube channel is going to cover some examples of different ways that you can use this in greater detail. But did just want to show you all this new functionality in case it was useful to you. If there's other examples that you're kind of running through in your mind, thinking, hey, is this something that I could do with this new Zapier trigger? Let me know. Happy to go into anything else you might want to know there. So I'm going to come back here. And I'm going to talk through a couple of other updates that we've made to Motion.io in the past couple of months. We have about 10 minutes left here. So if anybody, just as a reminder, if you have questions, things you want to know, let me know. And I will go ahead and answer them. Oh, I see we have a good question coming in from Tim at Ela Connect. Does it work when a project is created with tags? So that is a good question, Tim. The way that this works is this Zapier workflow, it's only going to trigger when a tag is applied. So if a project is created and the tag is applied at the same time, this workflow will not be triggered because those things happen at the same time. Basically, what you'll want to do is create project and then add that tag for that thing to happen. That said, Tim, if you want to have something fire on project creation, my suggestion is just add that step to the Zapier workflow that you're using to create those new projects already. You don't have to wait for the tag to be applied if you want it to happen at the same time the project is created. So for example, let me just go ahead and I'll create a new workflow here to show you all and to show you, Tim, just like how you would set this up. Let's say I was triggering a workflow when a fill out form was submitted. This is just a quick example I like to use. So let's say when this form was submitted, what I'm going to do is go ahead and got to select account here. Real quick, let's just skip testing. And let's say you had a workflow that looks something like this, Tim, where basically when a form was submitted, you wanted to go ahead and create a project in Motion.io. If there's things that you want to happen at the same time as this create project action fires, what I would say you should do is just go ahead and add that to a subsequent step in the workflow. So let's say I wanted to do something within HubSpot when a new project was created. Great. I could just add that as a step after the project was created. Does that work for you, Tim? If it doesn't, let me know. Happy to dive in, provide any additional context I can that way. And I see another question of from Marquesa. Do you mind showing us how you add 3 templates to one project? When you say templates, Marquesa, the way that templates work is if I create a project from a template, that is one project. You could invite clients to multiple projects at once and it would get put in that portal. Is that what you're trying to do? Let me know. I just need a little bit more clarification on that. And Tim, great to hear that that makes sense, that you could just add that to the future steps of the workflow. And then Jenny sent in another message. Thank you, Jenny. Another feature I would like for tasks, different statuses, draft, to do, in progress, on hold, overdue, complete. So we have overdue, we have in progress, we have draft. One of the things we don't have right now is on hold, but let me know how you might want to use that on hold. So basically, that's like we would just add the on hold status. That's kind of what you're asking for. Oh, and great, Marquesa. So that's what you mean. Basically, you want to be able to add a single client to multiple projects. So I will show you, since I already have my Zapier account pulled up here, I'll actually show you this right now. So let's say, let me just go and submit. Gusto growth. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and show you how this would work. So Marquesa, if you wanted to add a single client to multiple projects via Zapier, this is actually really easy to do. What you could do here, so instead of just having one create project action, you would have 3. And what you would do is in each of these different create project actions, you would select a different template. So this one, I'll create a digital advertising. I'll create it for my digital advertising template. This one, I will create from my SEO services template. And this one, I will create from my website redesign template. And let me go ahead and just select a form here. And I can actually show you this in real time here. Why is this not populating my forms? Well, either way, I'll just show you very quickly like what would happen when this app fired. So I'll go ahead here and just find one of my example clients. And I'm going to kind of simulate what this would look like. So I'll add this client to 3 or to 2 additional projects here. So let me just go ahead. And I'm going to create project 2. Or actually, let's call this one project 1. Okay, and I'm going to add this client. Another cool thing that you'll notice in Motion.io, the first time when you add a client to the project, you'll actually now get a little notification that allows you to assign them to all tasks within it. And I'll show you that here in just a second. So I'm going to create another project from one of my templates very quickly just to run you all through this. Project 2. Sweet. Add this client again. Boom. And here's that notification I was talking about. So if you add a client to a project manually, you'll now have this ability to assign them to all tasks, which is really cool. Just helps you kind of streamline your workflow, get things up and running faster. And you'll see that, cool, that client that I added was automatically assigned to all client-facing tasks in the project. And then for our final step, just to simulate this workflow, like I mentioned, okay, we'll call this project 3. Cool, create that. Quickly add the user in. And so great, I've assigned this, or I've added this client, this specific Sam testing client, to 3 different projects. So let's go ahead and let's show you what this would look like. And like I said, you could do this through Zapier. You could do this manually. I showed you what the Zapier workflow would look like. But then what I did is I went ahead and just added them manually to the project. So cool. What the client would see is that when they would come into their portal, they would now have their 3 projects here. So they had project 1, project 2, and project 3. So they could access all of those projects from the same portal. And then to automate this, like in this Zapier workflow I showed you, you would just have a Zap with some kind of trigger and then 3 different create project actions. So, Marquesa, hopefully that answers your question. I know that is a lot. It's always kind of a lot when like you're trying to set up a Zapier workflow on the fly, but it sounds like from what you were talking about that this should be exactly what you need. And as you saw, like within the client portal that I showed you, is they'll have access to everything right there. And right here, to access all 3 of those projects right within their same singular portal. And a big part of actually why this operates this way is we had a lot of people just like yourself running businesses who said, hey, I would really, really like to be able to break it up so that I can invite a client to, 3 projects and keep things a little bit separate and be able to, really organize my workflow that way. And great to hear you love it. That is amazing. I'm happy I could help out live on this stream here today. And so thank you everyone for the amazing questions. This was so fun. I love doing these live streams when people are just tuning in, suggesting features, showing new things that we could do with Motion.io. It just makes it so much more fun for me, frankly. And I really appreciate you all. It's a fun way to like kind of end my week. And I've been doing these live streams now every single week. So be on the lookout. I let everybody know via email if you're a member of Motion.io. If you sign up for a trial, you'll get those emails. So another comment from Marquesa: I'm learning to provide smaller pieces to prevent overwhelm. Yeah, that's a really helpful insight, Marquesa, because that's actually a big reason of why we built Motion.io in the first place. So if anybody is unfamiliar with the story of how Motion.io came to be, so I was, when I was just a young lad, right out of college, I worked for a small little web design company called Brighter Vision. And that was founded by my now co-founder, Perry. He hired me as employee number 3 to start building websites. And at our high peak, we were building and we were onboarding like 350 web design clients every single month. And what we had noticed is that it was oftentimes really, really hard to get the things back that we needed from them because it'd be overwhelming. The clients, we were working with mental health professionals who are amazing people, amazing at their job and what they do. But oftentimes they'd be presenting with this big list of more technical questions, and it was hard for them to be able to do all of those things that we needed, and it would create all of these issues, bottlenecks in the pipeline, not being able to get things basically back in the timeframes that we needed. And what we'd found over time is that if we broke those things out into smaller pieces, it was really helpful for them. And we took a lot of those insights and used it to build Motion.io, build this simple portal for clients to see what they need to do, what's coming next, and be able to complete it without having to bother logging in or anything like that. So we had some early experiences there at Brighter Vision. And like I said, onboarding 300 clients a month. We were providing web design and marketing services. And then we met our buddy, Zach, my third co-founder, who actually had the office, the floor above us. Very similar business in the funeral care industry where they're building websites for funeral homes. And he said, hey, we're having some of these exact same problems that you guys identified. So we used all of that information to build Motion.io after we all had, kind of left those previous businesses and teamed up. So just to share a little bit of insight of how Motion.io came to be, I think is kind of fun. It's something that I always like hearing the backstory of whenever I'm looking at a new company. So with that, everybody, happy Friday. Hope you all enjoy your weekend. Thank you all for tuning in, and be on the lookout. You'll see me now once a week, almost every Friday here, answering questions live. So, and as always, if you need any help or assistance with Motion.io, just send us an email at hello@motion.io, and we'll be in touch. Take care, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.